the Boston Celtics and the LA Lakers, and it's the Lakers who prevail 106-103.
There's Bird. He gets two defenders racing at him. They jump straight up to make him leap back and lose the momentum of his leaping ability, so he's got to throw it really hard off the glass.
And our Miller Lite player of the game, who else? Earvin Magic Johnson, 39 points, 7 rebounds, and 10 assists. He hit the big baskets and has led the Lakers today as he has all season. Light Beer from Miller is proud to present a check for $1,000 on behalf of Magic Johnson to the Thurgood Marshall Black Education Fund. So for Tom Heinsohn and Pat O'Brien, I'm Dick Stockton saying so long from the Forum, where the final score, the Lakers 106, the Celtics 103. Join us next Sunday when Dr. J and the Philadelphia 76ers face these Los Angeles Lakers, which could possibly be the Doc's final game against the Lakers. And remember, there's college basketball on Saturday when Kansas and St. John's square off. The NBA on CBS is a presentation of CBS Sports.
United's cut fares from coast to coast. Fly for just $29 to $99 to more cities than any other airline with as little as 2 days advance purchase.
You're not just flying, you're flying the friendly skies.
When you look for champions, you look to CBS Sports. This is CBS.
It's their birthday, but the savings are for you during Big Sur Waterbed's President's Day celebration. Now through Monday at 9 p.m., you'll find star-spangled savings on our great selection of quality waterbeds, waterbed bedding, accessories, and solid wood bedroom furniture. This is the weekend to buy a waterbed. But honestly, the President's Day celebration ends Monday at 9 p.m. at Big Sur Waterbeds, America's largest, 3715 Merle Hay Road at Douglas in Des Moines.
This week on Time Capsule.
They've been the answer to many local employers' hiring problems, but a lot of Des Moines' retarded citizens are still waiting for jobs. I'm Chris Lidstad, a hidden workforce that's finally been discovered this week.
Winter fishing on the Mississippi. It's a good place to catch cold, but it's also a good place to catch some walleyes. I'm John McLaughlin. We'll have that story this week.
Join host Dave Buzik for Time Capsule, Sunday at 5:30 on TV8.
I admitted I was powerless over my addiction, that my life had become unmanageable. I had tried to quit on my own, but it never worked. It didn't matter what drug or how much I used. In Narcotics Anonymous, I learned that it is possible to stop using drugs. I don't have to do it alone.
Call Narcotics Anonymous. We can help.
For more information, call 515-244-2277.
In Ottumwa, tune to Translator Channel 74 for better reception of TV8.
Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Susan Spencer reporting. Tonight, the family of Soviet dissident Yosef Begun is anxiously awaiting word, hoping for confirmation of a report that the Soviets have set him free after a week of sometimes violent protests on his behalf. As Hampton Pearson reports, the news came as a surprise and poses questions as to what the Soviets are up to.
Soviet Central Committee member Georgy Arbatov made the surprise announcement on American television that dissident Joseph Begun had been released.
I made a telephone call just now before it, and I got the news that his case was resolved.
So far tonight, Begun's wife has not been told officially of his release. In 1983, Joseph Begun was sentenced to 7 years in a labor camp for anti-Soviet agitation. His continued imprisonment sparked several demonstrations this past week. Television pictures of plainclothes police beating up peaceful protesters overshadowed the release of 140 dissidents.
His case was in the process of, reassessment. And he would have been free several days ago. Wouldn't it be for this demonstration?
But Soviet experts say it was the protest that triggered Begun's release.
The Soviets wanted to make the best possible impression this week, and they want to focus attention on Mr. Gorbachev's speech and on his new peace initiative, which we all anticipate tomorrow. And here were all the Jews demonstrating on behalf of Begun, confusing picture, distracting attention from Gorbachev's peace offensive. Something had to be done about that.
So far, Joseph Begun's exact whereabouts have not been made public. It is also not clear if the dissident signed a pledge against future protest, a precondition the Soviets had previously insisted on as the price of his freedom. Hampton Pearson, CBS News, Washington.
Another day of fighting in Beirut today, with street battles between Shiite Amal militiamen and Communist Party members claiming 3 lives. 9 people were hurt. Meanwhile, as Mark Phillips reports, there's been a new development in the mystery. Where is missing hostage negotiator Terry Waite?
In the Druze mountain strongholds of Lebanon today, the pressure was increased for some sort of break in the hostage deadlock. At a rally celebrating a past Druze victory, Walid Jumblat called on the pro-Iranian Hezbollah, or Party of God group, to release Anglican Church envoy Terry Waite. It was the first time a Lebanese leader had linked Hezbollah with Waite's disappearance. Waite has been missing since January 20th, when he left the protection of the Druze militia for a meeting with kidnappers of other hostages. Jumblat says he is now waiting for a response from Hezbollah. There was a minor break in the hostage situation today when Jean Obeid, a former aide to Lebanese President Amin Gemayel, was freed by the gunmen who had been holding him for 4 days. Gemayel himself was in London today meeting with British Foreign Secretary Sir Geoffrey Howe. The Waite kidnapping was expected to be discussed, and Gemayel will meet Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher and Archbishop of Canterbury Robert Runcie tomorrow. In Lebanon, Palestinian refugees continue to flee from their camps, which have been besieged by Shiite Amal gunmen for 17 weeks. After their ordeal, they're still a little jumpy at the not infrequent sound of gunfire. And residents of the camps of South Lebanon have finally been allowed to leave briefly to buy much-needed food. Foreign workers in the refugee camps say the situation is one of near starvation.
In the Beirut camps, you cannot get out to get food at all. And so you are trapped inside, and we know that the cats, the dogs, the mules have been eaten.
The Druze leader, Walid Jumblat, today called the hostage situation impossible, and indeed it is. The only hope is that the slight easing of tensions around the refugee camps will enable the various Lebanese warlords to begin concentrating on the hostage issue once again. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Damascus.
Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir announced tonight that the U.S. has granted Israel official status as an ally, a move likely to give it an advantage when it comes to U.S. aid. On the eve of a visit here, Shamir also said he thinks that his country has, quote, nothing to be ashamed of in its role as middleman in the Iran arms deals. The extent of the CIA's involvement in the Iran-Contra scandal will be the focus of confirmation hearings this week for CIA Deputy Director Robert Gates, nominated to succeed William Casey in the agency's top job. As Robert Shackney reports, Gates could have a rough time.
Robert Gates inherits a CIA substantially rebuilt, strengthened, and expanded over 6 years by William Casey, but a CIA once again embarrassed by another covert operation gone sour. On the eve of his confirmation hearing, that is Gates's biggest problem.
He was involved with William Casey in the whole Iran-Contra affair. They both knew about the whole passing of money to the Contras from the Iran deal as early as October 1st. And they basically sat on the information.
Casey's emphasis on expanding the CIA's covert operations without always telling the intelligence committees embroiled him and his agency in repeated public controversy. Disclosure of the CIA's role in mining Nicaraguan harbors and then in advising the Contras about assassinations produced angry and major confrontations with Congress.
Bill Casey, devoted to the president and to his country, sought to use the agency in ways for which it is just not suited. It just doesn't work well.
His relations with Congress tended to be very prickly, particularly in his first couple of years. Bill is a rather truculent, combative Irishman who does not suffer gladly those whom he thinks knows less than they should.
But those with access to the CIA's classified records say that what Casey did to rebuild the CIA, to improve its morale, and to triple its budget is far more important than his headline problems.
I believe intelligence historians will make the judgment that Casey was probably one of the 3 best directors of that community of intelligence.
To many members of Congress, Robert Gates, the low-keyed career intelligence officer, will be a welcome change from Casey, the feisty political appointee with close ties to the White House.
Bob Gates is a career analyst, been in the most important and difficult subjects all his life over there, fills the bill just fine.
Gates may fill the bill, but there remains that one big uncertainty, his role in the Iran-Contra affair. If there's a minefield on Gates's path to confirmation, that potentially is it. Robert Shackney, CBS News, Washington.
A top-secret side of the National Security Council program called Project Democracy, set up in 1982, reportedly initiated the Reagan administration's dealings with Iran and the Contras. The New York Times said today the covert section was headed by Oliver North and had virtually its own foreign policy apparatus, complete with secret communications and leased planes. The public side of Project Democracy exists today as the National Endowment for Democracy. The endowment and the White House today denied any links to any secret NSC operation. There's more news ahead tonight, including the latest fight in Congress over legal aid to the Contras. And Charles Osgood will have a story that is music to the eyes.
I'll take that with climate control and 6-way power seats. Gotta have that.
How much can you save on 18 new Buick models? It's your option. You can save up to $1,200.
Oh, aluminum wheels. Yeah, that'll look sharp. Sounds good, huh? Power windows.
You can take your savings as a cash rebate. Apply it to the down payment or the lease payment. It's a better time to buy. So see your participating Buick dealer for details now.
Grand touring suspension.
Buick, where better really matters.
Ooh, and I want the concert sound system.
Bart Akins here for Super Polygrip. If you know the pain of food getting stuck between your dentures and gums, ouch! Remember, Super Polygrip holds so tight, it helps keep food out, dentures in. Super Polygrip.
Konica tough. Konica's Royal Copiers are tough. Reliability and dependability have earned them a tough reputation. Konica's Royal Copiers, the right choice for tough jobs.
President Reagan is about to ask Congress for more money for the Contra rebels, but he may find himself a victim of very bad timing. Jacqueline Adams reports.
There will be lots of guerrilla warfare this week, but it won't be in Central America. It'll be in Washington. President Reagan plans to ask Congress to give Nicaragua's Contra rebels the final $40 million installment of the aid package approved last year.
We must not and will not abandon them.
To free the money, though, the president must assure Congress that the Contras are broadening their base of support. That'll be difficult since one of the Contra's 3 leaders, Arturo Cruz, the so-called soul of democracy in Nicaragua, has threatened to resign this week.
If Cruz were to resign, it would create a impossible problem for the administration, because Cruz is associated with the reform process. He's been the leader of the reform process, and the reforms were very much part of the legislation.
In Congress, the Contra's internal problems on top of the Iran scandal are making a tough sell even harder.
The fact that there's been no military success, the fact that this looks like it's going to be a long-term commitment, the fact that President Reagan has got 2 years on his term, and that he's a lame duck president, all of these factors come together at one time.
Opponents of the aid plan an all-out campaign.
Aid to the Contras and the military approach to our problems in Central America is a 6-year policy of failure.
Contra aid opponents know that while they have a majority, they do not have the 2/3 necessary to block the $40 million over President Reagan's veto. They're taking the long view, though, seeing this week's activities as a training exercise to help them better prepare for this fall's fight over the administration's $105 million request for the Contras for 1988. To stop that, they need only a majority. Jacqueline Adams, CBS News, the White House.
Government officials probably made a few Wall Streeters very nervous today. Just days after the latest arrest for alleged insider trading, U.S. Attorney Rudolph Giuliani said the investigation is still developing. And Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman John Shad said, quote, there will be more shoes to drop. Well, we all know it's winter. We all know that it's cold in winter. It's supposed to snow in winter, but still, the weather in many parts of the Midwest and East was strictly for the birds today. The electric socks were out from Maine to Chicago, where wind gusts of 30 miles an hour sent the wind chill to -8. Nothing compared to Boston's -30, Vermont's -34. That left many homeless people desperate for shelter. It also kept towing firms busy. Car batteries frozen solid. Blame it all on a northern air mass blasting down from Canada, and don't look for quick relief.
We certainly think it will affect our weather, especially in the eastern half of the United States, for the next 5 days and possibly the next 2 weeks.
Nor has the South been spared. In Houston, high winds and golf ball-sized hail brought down power lines and ripped into houses. A tornado watch is out tonight for parts of Alabama, Florida, and Louisiana. Some folks have had enough.
This is the second time we've had a tornado hit our house.
But there are always those who are undeterred. In Pennsauken, New Jersey, with a wind chill of 25 below, the Penguin Foot Race went on as usual today, or almost as usual.
Maytag introduces 20,000 cups and saucers, 7,000 pots and pans, 19,000 glasses, 40,000 knives and forks, 5 years' worth of formerly filthy dishes, all cleaned by one highly efficient dishwasher, Maytag. The dishwasher with a 5-year dependability warranty on the entire wash system.
Because nobody builds them like Maytag.
Maytag, the dependability people.
I live naturally, always have. So, when my doctor said Metamucil keeps you regular naturally, I gave it a try.
Metamucil's fiber is my doctor's choice. It's a true natural laxative. So these days, I'm my regular self, thanks to Metamucil.
Trust is a delicate thing, not easy to come by. So knowing more doctors trust Metamucil makes me feel better than ever.
Natural fiber Metamucil.
It's tried,
true,
and trusted.
Inspection! Are we clean?
Yes, sir.
How do we stay looking clean?
With automatic vanish, sir.
Why automatic vanish?
Sir, with automatic vanish, every flush brings us more of that tough vanish cleaning and deodorizing formula. No other brand can give you that.
Sound off!
Automatic!
Sound off!
Vanish! No other brand gives you that tough vanish formula.
In private, there are other Vanish products you should know about. When you want to brush, use liquid or crystal Vanish. Their powerful formula cleans so well, you'll stand up to any inspection.
Yes, sir.
The 7-installment television series about a Soviet-occupied America debuts tonight. In this country, it has sparked often bitter debate. In Moscow, though, it sparked almost obsessive condemnation, as we hear from Wyatt Andrews.
In the Soviet Union, it's as if the ABC series America has already been on the air. The insults have already flown, the damage done. For weeks, virtually non-stop, the Soviet media have reviewed the clips and come to the verdict the series is a Pentagon-inspired act of hatred, an anti-Soviet provocation.
Антисоветские провокации.
The miniseries, which begins tonight, takes the viewer to 1996. With international help, the Soviets occupy the United States and encounter surprisingly little resistance. The Soviet occupiers are generally depicted as cruel, the Americans divided and weak.
What we did not expect was that without communications, the United States would revert to a collection of separate peoples.
Just got the drop on us.
It worked because you lost your country before we ever got here.
The battle scenes of America's defeat are what generate the most propagandistic outrage. The sick fantasies of the American right, one commentator said. But the propaganda is also tempered with feelings of genuine hurt. Reminders that in the last real war, Americans helped feed a starving Russian public. There is a deeper and more substantive Soviet critique.
In America, I saw White Knights, I saw Rambo, I saw Rocky IV, I saw so many films. I haven't seen even one positive Russian on the American screen. That's a big mistake because it looks like it to teach hatred. If one Russian is not dissident in American film, he's always bad Russian.
The Soviet coverage of the series America, however, is glaringly one-sided, never focusing on the drama of how America could be lost from within, regardless of the face of the enemy. How the series America describes the experiment called America.
They're my children, Peter. I got a right to see them.
You got no rights.
Still, the perception of insult in the Soviet Union is real. Soviet television is asked to buy the miniseries from ABC to show the Soviet public what Russians look like on American TV.
They would feel much more comfortable
if America were crushed by an iron fist.
The debate, like the series, is about freedom. How Americans are free to air controversial drama regardless of who takes offense. The Russians tell their people this freedom is the freedom to exploit fear.
And they may yet do it.
Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, Moscow.
Here's Jerry with a new car.
What'd you pay for it?
About $5,500.
Are you kidding?
Does it run on batteries?
What's it made of? Crepe paper?
Does it have a motor? Does it have a motor?
Can I kick the tires?
Will the door come off the hinges?
Hey, guess what? It's a Subaru!
Oh, a Subaru!
Subaru!
Only one inexpensive car is built like a Subaru. Introducing the Subaru Justy. Inexpensive and built to stay that way.
Such a smart boy. Oh.
It's a question of taste. If you had your pick of two cereals, both with 100% nutrition, would you pick the one with just one kind of flake? Or Kellogg's Just Right with 3 different kinds of flakes, plus hearty rolled oats, plump raisins, sweet juicy dates, and crisp crunchy nuts? You're not alone. 3 out of 4 people picked Just Right over every other high vitamin cereal. There was no question of nutrition. It was simply a question of taste. Kellogg's Just Right with fruit or whole grain.
An official of the Soviet health ministry was critical of his own agency today. He said it's failing to cut the country's high infant mortality rate. In the United States, there is similar criticism of the government. Gary Reeves has that report.
You're going to be cute, but you're going to be swallowed up by your dress.
Every parent hopes for and expects a perfect baby. And this week in San Antonio, Sandra Rodriguez's little girl fulfilled her mother's wish. But a new Children's Defense Fund study says that compared to babies born in Japan and Finland, American children are twice as likely to die before their first birthday.
We don't demonstrate the concern for our children and their well-being that the European countries do.
The study cites San Antonio as one of 6 American cities where infant deaths have increased. Officials here say the mortality rate has now been cut in half as the city's free clinic system has been expanded.
It's good to be going to clinics and finding out how far along you are and how's your health.
The key factor in saving babies is keeping mothers healthy during pregnancy. But maternal health care in the U.S. is spotty at best, especially for the poor and the growing number of women without health insurance. In most European countries, programs like this one are run by the national government. But in the U.S., many of the federal programs depend on matching state dollars. And when the state comes up short, babies die.
It is frustrating to keep having to ask for and to justify something that you believe is an essential aspect of the health of American citizens.
The technology exists to save many babies born with problems. But even the doctors who invent the life-saving machines agree the nation needs to invest more in basic health care.
The difficulty in this country is not a lack of technology or talent. It's just that a large segment of the population doesn't really have access to effective obstetrical or effective neonatal care.
The babies most likely to die are black, brown, poor, and have teenage mothers. And while experts say the solution is simply better social services, federal budget cuts promise a lower level of help. Preliminary figures indicate next year's report may show infant mortality on the rise again. Gary Reeves, CBS News, San Antonio.
You're on your way.
Kids and science can really get together in the right kind of place. So Dow has developed and funded the Touch Tech Laboratory here at Impression 5 in Lansing, Michigan.
In this particular experiment, we're going to make a solid out of 2 liquids.
It's a hands-on museum that puts the wonders of science at a child's fingertips.
Here you go, PJ.
And who knows what that could lead to.
Dow lets you do great things.
Konica Tough. Konica's Royal Copiers are tough. Reliability and dependability have earned them a tough reputation. Konica's Royal Copiers, the right choice for tough jobs.
When you need it most, you can get extra strength relief from heartburn with extra strength Riapan Plus. In lab tests, ounce for ounce, it neutralizes twice the acid as regular Maalox or Mylanta. It's that strong. Extra strength Riapan Plus.
Jack Rafferty proves you just can't tell.
The fellas that I work with are pretty perceptive. They don't miss too much. No one had picked up the fact that the gray was gone from my hair. It was that simple. No one realized I was using the Grecian Formula 16. It was so gradual. The Grecian has a natural look about it. It's not a dye, it's a clear liquid. The questions most asked by the fellas at work were, what are you doing? You working out? Are you losing weight? And unless I told them I was using the Grecian Formula 16, they never would have guessed.
Grecian Formula 16. You just can't tell who's using it.
It's been said that there's no such thing as a new idea. This week, a 92-year-old collector hauled out his bit of musical memorabilia to prove it. Charles Osgood explains.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
So-called videos are hot these days. One of the best ways to promote a rock record is to have an eye-popping TV version or video to go with it. Once upon a time, of course, music was very different. But even in those days, they had videos of a sort, pictures to go with the covers of the sheet music, which is what they were trying to sell. And for the same reason, pictures in the old Nickelodeons.
Take me out for a joyride, a girl ride.
A series of 14 to 16 slides would illustrate the story of a song. And the theater pianist would play the tune. Second time around, they'd show you the lyric. The audience would sing, and they were supposed to run right out afterwards and spend their money.
To the public, it was entertainment, but actually it was sheet music.
John Ripley of Topeka, Kansas, is, at the age of 92, the owner of the world's best song slide collection. Along about 1914, most theater owners just threw away their song slides, and they became a lost art form. Would have been lost altogether were it not for John Ripley.
I think it's a form of folk music of the city. They brought that music to the people.
Ripley sold some of the song slides to his friend Max Morath, who's used them while singing and playing piano in his own show.
Wait till the sun shines, Billy, when the clouds go drifting by.
The old Nickelodeon theaters used to use other slides for commercials. And still others for public service announcements. The slides, like the songs, reflect a simpler time. MTV, eat your heart out. Charles Osgood, CBS News, New York.
A romantic end of the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather will be here tomorrow, and later tonight, Bruce Morton with the CBS Sunday Night News. I'm Susan Spencer in New York. Have a good week.
The American dream is one of hope and possibilities. We're GMAC, people who help make dreams come true. First, we made automobile financing easy. Now, home mortgages, financing for a boat, even MIC insurance to keep your dreams safe. We're the financial services people from General Motors. GMAC, official sponsor of America's dreams.
This is CBS.
In the last 3 years, the Garcia Company has covered a lot of ground. We started with 13,000 customers. The next year, 40,000. And last year, 65,000 farmers bought Garst hybrids. So if you haven't tried us, maybe you should. Because the next thing you know, you're going to see Garst everywhere you look.
Come to Garst Paydays, February 19th through the 21st.
Win the great escape on the next Runaway with the Rich and Famous. It's a tropical trail to Shangri-La as Donna Mills discovers paradise in the sun-drenched South Pacific. Susan Anton steams through Body, Scotland on its legendary train. And
And speaking of basketball, I'll share my recent reunion with Drake's famous 1968-69 team that went to the Final Four of the NCAA tournament. We'll introduce the new lottery game and have features on Iowa Families Together Weekend, a Shakespearean production at Drake University, and a non-surgical treatment for carpal tunnel syndrome. Join us for Midday.
You're on TV8, KCCI TV, Des Moines.